Mr. Briffault, is it possible to know, either on a state level or a city level or any level, what the tangible impact is of corruption in government? Is it possible to know what laws are written or not written, or what decisions are made or not made because of corrupt actions or corrupt actors?
It's actually very hard to tell when somebody's vote or somebody's support for legislation is totally because there's a personal benefit to it. And it's particularly hard to tell, I think, for major legislation. One can imagine more for relatively minor things, something that steers a state grant or something to a particular agency or a particular organization. But for big things, I think it's, the reasons that people vote for things are some mixture of ideological belief, partisan commitment, best interest of their district, and maybe something that lines up with something more personal. So my guess is that every now and then you could say this something or other is a result of that, but I think on balance it's much harder to tell.
And in some higher profile cases we've seen with Joe Bruno or Bob McDonald in Virginia, or even questions around Bob Menendez in New Jersey, the question of a direct quid pro quo seems to come up a lot. Is that something that needs to be clarified in the law, or is that just the way this process goes in trying to unearth?
Right. That is the legal standard. So in some ways it involves trying to, in the cases that become criminal cases, the prosecutor is going to try and persuade a jury that that's what happened, that somebody outside offers the elected official something and the elected official responds because. That's the pro. Usually we're able to figure out the quid and the quo. And most of the contested cases are going to be the pro. Did he do it because of this benefit, or did he do it because, personal friendship, or did he do it because he always gives meetings, or did he do it for some other reason, because he thought it was good public policy? So I think the legal standard it's harder to make it more crisp than that. It's going to turn on what you can show in a given case. It's going to be really rare where there's that smoking gun evidence of somebody on tape or somebody in writing. It's mostly going to be looking at what did they do and trying to figure out why they did it.
And I think for most people who are casual observers of government, they would feel like you can't prosecute this away. That you can go after bad actors, but you can't keep prosecuting everybody. How do we change the culture? How do we change the rules to prevent this without necessarily going all the way to a courtroom?
Well, you may not be able to prosecute it away completely, but I think a couple of high-profile prosecutions might reduce it. And when I do think that if you see powerful people being indicted and convicted and going to prison, it might actually have some discouraging effect. So I don't want to sneeze at the prosecuting away. I agree with you, you can never get 100%. So one thing is that. A second would be, a lot of people talked about just more consistent rules about what elected officials are allowed to accept in terms of gifts and benefits, providing for their campaigns, providing alternatives like public funding. You could reduce the incentives, and you can also increase the disincentive, carrots and sticks, or maybe reduce the carrots and increase the sticks. And one of the ways of increasing the sticks actually is the prosecutions.
And finally, the cynic might take a look at the entire political system and say, well, there's different forms of bribery. Some appear to be legal and some are illegal. Can you really ever stamp this out entirely without getting rid of all money in politics? Because if it's a super PAC that's giving money and getting votes, not necessarily as a direct quid pro quo, is that really that much different than if I am paying you directly for a vote?
It's a hard question, and I certainly think that given the way of money in politics right now, there's going to be money floating around, and you're right, whether it's a contribution or an independent spending, and candidates are going to be aware of that. So I approach a lot of this by not can we solve the problem, but can we make the situation better? Can we make incremental improvements which maybe over time will lead to bigger improvements? And I think that's what we're talking about here today, is that there are some things that we can do, whether to make it more clear that certain things aren't allowed, provide alternative ways of raising funds, and to provide better disclosure, more vigorous enforcement that can take us forward. The solution is too far away.